Hi, welcome back, everyone, for episode 3 with the Santa Fe Gloom podcast. My name is David Fresquez. We've got a great guest here with us today, JP, the Chief of Operations at Youthworks. JP, thank you so much for jumping on this afternoon.
Thank you, David, for having me. I greatly appreciate it.
You're welcome. Always nice seeing you, bro, and catching up. So thanks. Want to give thanks to Mercedes-Benz of Santa Fe. Thank you so much, Mike Martinez, City of Santa Fe Economic Development, and Santa Fe Dos. Thank you all so much for being supporters of the vision of the Santa Fe Gloom, the team, and just everything we do out in the community. So, JP, always nice seeing you, man. Walk us through just you growing up here in beautiful Santa Fe, New Mexico. I know you're a native guy, so kind of walk us through your experiences growing up.
So, one of the things I look at and I gauge some of the work I do now off of was my childhood experiences, right? Um, when I was growing up, there was no soccer leagues for anybody. Yeah, there was baseball, or yeah, there was softball, stuff like that, track, but there wasn't anything like that. And it was very hard to find resources to be able to be a part of your community. I think they were smaller cells of community now. And, I grew up in a couple of areas. So I grew up on Hillside Avenue, which is above Palace in downtown Santa Fe. But it wasn't the downtown you think of, right? When we think of, oh, well, downtown is a fancy place. It wasn't quite as fancy where I lived. And then I was on Baca Street a lot, which is not the Baca Street that you know now, right? Like all those houses have been redone and remodified, and different individuals live in that neighborhood. It was more of a Latino neighborhood at that time. And then I grew up towards Santa Fe High, and now I'm a resident of the South Side, and I work on the South Side primarily. I work for all parts of the city, but my primary focus is youth on the South Side. So that is where the areas I grew up. And so I remember, as I look back, like even on what Gloom is, like I'm excited to have Gloom into the community because the only individuals, so like if we look at statistics now, 80% of the kids in school are of Mexican American or Latino backgrounds, right?
That
And that's
that's
our
in
current
public schools here in
public
Santa Fe.
schools. Yep, currently,
Yeah.
right now,
Mhm,
80%.
mhm.
Which is kind of crazy. When I was growing up, it wasn't that way. There maybe was 30 to 50 max, um, that were primarily into that. So there was no soccer. It was only that group on the soccer field playing soccer, but for our lunchtime. And now the opportunity for them to be able to not only have um, a space, possible space, because you're looking at creating the whole space for it, which would be cool, right? But having them have a unified, organized group, to be able to do it different times, different things, to hold your tournaments and to do it, unheard of. I mean, I just have to commend you on putting that together because it didn't exist before you.
That's right. Yeah. So I think that there's a lot of things that you touch on, right? It's just the increase of growth of soccer in the community, definitely amongst the Hispanic kids. And then you touch on another good point. This is a Northern Soccer Club, right? So a lot of kiddos are going to this because this
Hmm.
is like really the only club to go to in Santa Fe, right? And then now we're introducing more of like the real competitive pro side, which is the Santa Fe Gloom. So you're exactly right. I think we're just seeing more kids at the public school level at recess playing soccer, potentially playing at Northern, and then having the path to play a real competitive pro team with the Santa Fe Gloom, right? I mean, that's we're creating those paths, right?
And one of the things that we failed to mention while you're creating them, right? We have these logistics of the opportunities they have, but we're also looking at a structured carrying system that you've created of supportive system for them to feel inclusive in the community on something they love and they feel passionate about, right? That
Yeah.
wasn't seen before. So it's like, hey, it's okay to like this. It's okay to be a part of this. And yes, it's the only one. And I hope I hope they really get to see. the impact that they can create as a collective, in a positive way. Because when we look at a lot of Latinos in our communities and cultures, well, there's a ominous nuance right above them, right? Like this whole idea of a heavy weight in our community, and you've taken that and created a positive space for individuals to be like, this is what we are, this is where we're going, and this is what we do. There's a goal, a vision, and a direction, and I just commend the work that y'all have put in to be able to get to where you are as of today, and I look forward to seeing the prosperity in the future and the seeds that it'll plant in our community.
That's right. Definitely appreciate it. On that note, talk us through what you do for Youthworks and that organization. I don't know, man. It was maybe a couple months ago, or no, it was longer than that. That we were at the economic development breakfast, right?
Yep.
We had a lot of the city officials there. Saw you bright and early, about 8 o'clock, 8:30, and you guys had an amazing spread of food. I mean, I told you, bro. Like, I'm not much of a breakfast guy, because I'm waking up and I'm going. But
Yep.
dude, I went back and forth that breakfast, and I was like, damn, this is so good. I mean, the eggs, bacon, toast, orange juice, everything. It was just like spot on. So talk us through. I'm sure that's probably not the only thing you guys do at Youthworks. So kind of talk us through how you got involved in Youthworks. How I'm sure this is your passion, working with the youth, right? And just kind of
Yep.
talk us through that organization because it's a staple in our community.
Well, okay, so Youthworks been around 22 years. And I think it was created with you notice a need for the community, and you try to help bridge a gap for them to be able to fulfill that need, right? And so one of the things that we do, I mean, there's many tracks. So we have like the youth build track, right? And this goes to your culinary. So people think, well, they just do catering. No, what we're doing is a program where opportunity youth, right? That's what we call them now, is opportunity youth, who don't fit in orthodox structures such as the school system or other orthodox, like very rigid areas, always have the chance to succeed. So, I mean, it's not a one size fits all, and it does work in a lot of ways. And I'm not discrediting my school system. I like
Yeah.
Tigre, everybody over there. I love my people, but each system is designed to be able to do different goals, right? So my goal is the ones that fell through the crack there. Our goal and our vision at Youthworks is, how do we support them and continue them into the community? So when we're working with kids that didn't necessarily fit in that traditional system, we offer them the opportunity to get their GED, right? So like it's a 4-day program at a time, and it can be as long as it takes for a kid. So each person is individualized, right? We do this
Mhm.
toughness, mental and ready, test to see like kind of where they're at. We do a gauge to see where they're at in their GED. Some have little to no schooling, some have a bunch. Some knock it out in 2 months, some knock it out in 2 years. It just depends on their movement of what they're doing, right? On one day, so like Tuesday, they would go, and then Thursday, they would go to school. So you got 2 days. We have two teachers here, and then we have about 5 tutors that come in to work with the kids. And when we're talking about youth, I'm talking 16 to 24 is what we primarily focus on, right? Doesn't mean that I won't help anybody else out in the community. Objective goals for Youthworks are youth within that age, right? And so on the other days, let's say the Wednesday and Friday, they have the option to go on 3 routes. Right now, what I have is a customer service certificate, nationally recognized customer service certificate. So we have a thrift store, which is on Agua Fria and Siler, right on San Isidro Court, which is right crosses your crossing Siler going to West Alameda. Um, that thrift store is all the stuff that has been donated to us as a nonprofit. All the stuff goes over there, and any proceeds go to that youth programming. So it could help a kid get his GED, it could help them get their license, could help them get a bunch of different things that we provide as services, right? So the funding is we have one supervisor, sometimes 2 3 kids, and they learn how to stock, they learn how to do retail, they learn how to do customer service. The next one that I have is construction. So we've teamed up with Habitat from Humanity for Humanity, right? We go out and we help build the houses with the individuals who are going to buy the houses. So the homeowner plus Habitat plus us, and they get a an NCCR certificate, which is nationally recognized certificate on construction trade building, to be able to go out there and remodel these homes. So they're going to learn how to use tape measures. They're going to how to put up truss, beams, concrete, a little bit of everything in their work, so that they're well rounded enough. So like, all right, you got your GED and college isn't your thing. You have some traits, you have some things that some skills to be able to support you in life, right? Because we need this follow-up care for them as well, right? So then from there, then we have the culinary track. And so yeah, we did do the city economic, and we have done the mayor's address to the city and the city's holiday party, stuff like that. And we've worked a lot with different organizations. And here's the one thing, that's our secondary, is the culinary stuff, right? The first part is we've been doing Midtown since the beginning of the pandemic. And if anybody doesn't know what Midtown is, it is where the COVID victims that were homeless at the first time got placed, so that they could work through COVID, and they needed food and meals. So the city provided programming at the Midtown campus, which is the old Santa Fe Arts Institute campus, and there's housing there, right? But as COVID went away, just homeless individuals trying to get into a home and get a step forward. So the same funding is in and out, and that's like the hard part, right? Like, how can you do it and break even, not make a profit? We're not making a profit off of it, but break even enough, right? Like, so that we're able to fund those. So the kids are actually giving back to the community. When the wildfires happened in Las Vegas, we were giving out 80,000 meals in 80,000 meals a month. And the way we were doing it was three hots and a cold,
Jeez.
like two hots and a cold. And we were delivering to the fire. So, like, each sub cell section of a first responder, right? Like, let's say the fire department, then the police department, they had these little camps set up all over in Las Vegas, those areas for those fires, right? National Fire. World Central Kitchen came in, gave us some support. And we ran this out of the kitchen at the community college, and we were running nonstop. My drivers. So not only did we make the food, and the kids got the experience to be able to work with professional chefs that are like on go for the world, right? And to learn some new tricks. We were popping this food out, dropping it off to each place, and then the victims that were getting rehoused, they were staying at Santa Ana Casino, Buffalo Thunder. They were staying other places such as the Santa Fe Lodge. So they're spread out all over. We were also delivering those to and seeing the needs that needed to be facilitated there throughout the fire. So my kids are known to give back in that sense. My youth, the youth that Youthworks is trying to produce, is healthy humans who know the skill to be able to reintegrate themselves in society, or to adjust so that they can see a lens to see themselves connecting to somebody in society. Sometimes those mirrors are there, and sometimes those mirrors aren't. And we're looking at the reality of things of like, we're going through 200, maybe 280 kids a year walking through the door at Youthworks getting services, which the number could double, and we're going to get to that later, right? But I'm working with the capacity that I can. Some are as simple as, hey, I need to figure out how to get my license and get into GED. Some are more complex and harder situations. They may have other entities tied to them or less support in certain areas, which then we have to facilitate. So the other thing Youthworks has is case management. So with the 3% tax passing, right, we talk about this mansion tax, and a lot of people are with it and a lot of people are against it. I'm not going to say that it's a
And
cure
it did
all.
pass, correct?
Huh?
It did pass, correct?
Yes, it passed.
Yeah.
And I will tell you what, two of the youth from Youthworks went and talked about it. I'm not going to say that I'm on left or I'm on right.
Mhm.
What I'm going to tell you is I am thankful that there's money in that fund that will get allocated, because that was divided, subcontracted to other entities out in the community, such as Youthworks, right? So we get a percentage of this. Some of the youth I work with have housing issues. So housing issues is a huge thing, right? We're talking about a 3% tax, but you're also talking about kids being homeless in Santa Fe. And we have this idea and nostalgia of the Santa Fe different, right? But we're really not that different if we're leaving our kids in the street. And so that same money helps them get into apartments. That same money allocated out, maybe their family members are behind on rent or other things, and if they fit the specific criteria built by the state and the city, then I'm allowed to get that out to them, into people, into the community. It's not like we're just writing checks and giving them out, but the case management actually has to go through step by step, check by check, and box by box to make sure that we're allocating the money in the right way. But imagine how many houses we're helping, because I could tell you I'm giving them skills, I'm giving them GED, I'm giving them a job, but if they're going home to nothing and there is nothing at home, or there is no home at all, well, then we're missing the larger picture on the bullet here, right? So we have the case management, and the case management also works with the youth. So like if they say, hey, my mom and this is going on, okay, we're going to step to that, check out what's going on. We also help the youth get their resume going, right? And once we get that going, we talk about, well, what skills have you learned? What skills do you have? Maybe they have no job history, but the work that they've learned here is their job history. And then we have that same case manager reach out to other employers in the community, right? And we work it out where they're on like a 3-month trial basis. They stay on Youthworks insurance. Youthworks forks out a little bit towards their minimum wage payment, so that the employer doesn't feel all the pressure of starting somebody new at once. But my case manager liaisons with this employer and says, well, we'll do monthly check-ins, we'll do weekly check-ins, whatever's facilitated, so that it's a good fit for our youth, but also a good fit for our community builders too, because I can't send somebody that is allergic to cats to work at the vet's office, right? We're setting them up for failure again. What my goal is to get this kid, this individual, this youth, into a space where they're able to succeed regardless of the odds, whether they're stacked in their favor or against them.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, that's amazing work, man. I mean, that's so much that you do in the
And
community, right?
well, we have counseling too. So let's say that some of these kids have mental health and wellness issues that we have going on, right? We have a counselor on site that's willing to work with them too. And then this is only one aspect of Youthworks. There's a whole nother aspect where we do trail restoration, working with the city to clean up, doing murals in the city. I'm more outdoorsy. It doesn't
Yeah.
have anything to do with the GED, but the validity of that program is, by the time those kids, because usually the kids that go there, I just want a summer job, I just want to get through because it's a seasonal job. I just want money. By the time they're done, they're like, shit, I don't have my GED. I'm gonna join the other program. It lets them start in one place and see the other, and then make some decisions from there. But there's a lot more, and there's a lot more to come in YouthWorks in the future that we're working on right now. So we're building $1.5 million kitchen at our old location, and this will be our specific training center for the youth. Right now, I'm renting kitchens. YouthWorks is renting kitchens. I'm personally not, but YouthWorks is renting these kitchens, right? To be able to facilitate our training. When we re-demo and build this with the promissory of Rotary, Rotary already promises $250,000 towards it, and we're about halfway to that 1.5 million right now. We'll be doing some campaign and fundraising, but as we get to that, that's going to be a place kids can hang out, they can learn, they can do customer service, they can do back end there, they can do everything, and it's central in the middle of Santa Fe. So that's just one thing coming in the future.
So it's a commercial kitchen, correct?
Yep, but it's going to be a cafe too. Like, let's
Okay,
say Gloom wants to host a event there. You're
got it.
more than welcome to take the ballroom, and then we would actually cater you right then and there, and we would close it down for you. So it's also going to be a place for kids to meet, to be social. There's going to be lots of aspects of how to use that space. It can be privately in the community as a group, or it shifts in the way that the community needs at the time it needs it. That's the point of pivoting
Yeah.
and moving together.
And the reason for the commercial space is because you see the need and the growth within YouthWorks. Is that it?
Well, okay, so if we look at it from a nonprofit's perspective, if I'm going to rent and rent and rent, well, you're talking, 4,000, 5,000, 10,000 at a time, plus insurance and
Yeah.
then driving vehicles. if we consolidate it all in one place where I can have them do the cafe training, so they have hands-on face to face with another human. They learn how to take an order. They can learn to do these things, and then they have the back end. Well, we're not paying rent. We're just paying on the mortgage that we already
Yeah.
own the
So
space.
you're going
Um,
from rental to ownership, essentially.
yep,
Got it.
yep.
Yeah.
And then after that, I don't need a fundraise to keep renting.
Correct.
After you own it, after it's done, that time that we spend looking for money, because that's the other part of nonprofit, right? We're looking for where's the next grant, where's the next thing to keep your doors open. The less I can ask for my costs, the easier it is for me to function and give 100% of my time to the kid instead
That's
of
right.
50-50.
Yeah. And higher wages potentially for
Yep.
employees after the kids.
And for the
Yeah.
kids,
Yeah.
we go above minimum wage for them. So when the whole program that I explained, the GED, they get a stipend to be able to be there. So we can't pay them to be there, but there's stipends that are available, so they do get something out of it. And then while they're working, they get like $15 an hour or 14.80 an hour,
Yep.
to be able to do it, and they can pick up extra hours or figure things out. Each kid is an individual, and we can figure out their needs for what their lifestyle is.
Yeah. That's great. Fast forward, let's say 5 to 10 years. What are some of the things that you see in Santa Fe that can be improved on in terms of the youth, right? And just some accomplishments and some tangible things that you're working on that the community leaders, such as yourself, can work on an initiative and say, hey, 10 years ago, we didn't have this. We didn't have this program, but now we do. Give us some insight on just some of your vision, your personal vision, right? And then potentially Youthworks vision as well. Just fast
So
forwarding into the 10 years from now. Because that's what we're
10
working
years,
for, right, JP? Everything
yeah.
that you're doing now has to materialize into something positive moving forward in the future.
We were sitting together the other day at that meeting for mental health and wellness, and I'm glad that the city sees mental health and wellness as a productive thing to put into, right? Because what I see failing, if I have 20 kids, let's say 20 males, all right, and I'm not discrediting the females, that had nothing to do with it. We're just going to focus on this real quick. If I have
Yeah.
20 males, I ask them, hey, you know, when's the last time you talked to your dad? Out of that 20, and I learned this, 18 to 16 of them never
Jeez.
met their dad, never met their dad. And so then the other ones were like, well, I know my dad, but he's always pissed off, he's always angry, he's at work and he's absent, or whatever the case, right? Very few. I had one person say, I really have a dad, right? And I'm like, wow. So then I started thinking like, wow, I didn't have a dad. So this mental health and wellness, the change in the kid will come in the youth, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what we want in 10 years, when we build stronger community leaders. Um, you know,
Yeah.
I think that we have lots of nonprofits and lots of things, but if we're not willing to work together, if we're not willing to put some differences to the side and sit down at the table and really be that mirror and role model, then we're doing it in vain. So I need stronger community leaders, and not only to get the kid to where they're able to survive, this youth, right? I want them to take over what we're doing next, so that one day, David, me and you are going to have to step down. We're done. My time is
Absolutely.
over.
Yeah.
Uh, but if we can build enough where it's a positive, pure culture from the beginning, we talk about mental health and wellness and like possibly bringing in professionals or experts. But if we create the culture from the beginning of like, hey, how are you? Let's stop and do a check in before the Groom game,
Yeah.
before the
Yeah.
game. Can we pause and just check in on how you're doing today? Not
Right.
about the soccer, not about nothing. How are you? I see you.
Yeah.
If we start those kind of interims, right, then I think in 10 years, what I'm really hoping on some of these projects is that the awareness of seeing that other human. If it's one thing the pandemic taught us, is nobody did good in pause.
Yeah.
Everybody panicked in the pause.
Yeah.
So I think slowing some of our systems down, I can't say we're going to disrupt the whole system. We'll find a system that makes the negative part of the system obsolete. That's what we're working towards. But we also need to pause and recognize. And I get to spend a lot of time with you from event to event, right? I see you at
Yeah.
different stuff. We
Yeah.
just end up in the same places. But
Yeah.
what I love is that we have very similar goals and visions towards Santa Fe, yet very two different approaches. We're both determined, we're both doing it, but you've taken one avenue and I've taken the other, and that we can support each other. You can call me on Tuesday and say, hey, I need to talk about this part. It may very well not be on my project, but I'll say, I can do that because I love what you're doing. And you've
Correct.
vice versa done it. And there's more in our community. I'm just pointing out us. I think more unity in the way that we're working as collectives is what I want to see in that 10 years. Is we have the most nonprofits per capita in the United States.
Yeah.
How can we still have kids homeless or different things? And I'm not saying that there's a one size fits all answer, but what I do want to do is stronger relationship building. So if the city's starting to see that there's mental health and wellness, I'm glad they invited you. I'm glad they invited me. I'm glad that it's even being aware, because if I know what's happening in the city, then maybe the school will join in on that, and that'll be on the same, because that kid is still going to school, right? Let's hypothetically say the kid's going to school, then he's going to the teen center. If there's no communication, or to Geneva Chavez, it doesn't matter where, it's going to another entity. Um, if there's no communication between institution, maybe something could be prevented, or maybe we can set the change in just the way of thinking and lens if we all work together. You know, that's what I want.
Yeah. No, I think you touched on so many good points. I mean, it's difficult, right? Like
Yeah.
it's tough because sometimes I feel like I'm alone, right? Even in like my company, sometimes, right? Just being an employer, I'm thinking, geez, and I'm sure you feel the same way,
Yep.
that you feel alone at times. And I think again, just the more events in our city and more spending time together like this and brainstorming and having conversations like this, I think lifts everybody and it helps the bottom line. And the bottom line is at this point helping the kids grow into leaders and productive humans. Because when we see these statistics of the kids, homeless or drugs, it's not because of them, right? It's because of us as leaders in the community that have let them down and put them into that type of system, right? Because I think it's super rare that a child who's 7 years old, right, says, "Yeah, I want to be homeless or I want to do drugs." I don't think that's the case. The case is that they're just into a system that allows that to happen because there's not enough leadership around them to help them out.
Mhm. Not enough support. And
That's right.
Santa Fe, or the state of New Mexico, is one of the top with rural disparity in just
Yeah,
food, just
that's
the
right.
basic need of food.
Right.
So it's like
Yeah.
we have high on crime, high
Mhm.
on homelessness, right? High on food. We're last in education,
Yep.
or very close to last. So what are the core values that we're doing as a community that we can change some of these things, where we make it all inclusive, and everybody's at the table from the beginning and not an afterthought, like, okay, let's make this plan and then ask the kids what they want. Let's bring some kids to the table and ask them what it is they want, because when we were youth, well, the things we were looking for weren't the same problems that are here
Yeah.
today, right?
It's different.
And some of them still exist. I'm not going to say that they don't, but they've morphed, they change, just like a virus would. It would morph and change, right? So
That's right.
what are the new issues that the kids are seeing that me and you have no idea, and we're like, wow, I didn't even know that exists. That's what I want to see, is those kinds of community conversations. And one of the things that we'll be doing in the near future, right, is um, Councillor Faulkner, and Councillor Castro, and the Teen Center and Youthworks and a couple other spaces
Is
are
this
going
the
to
teen
put
center on the
together
south
some.
side?
Yes, sir. We're going to put some mural classes together where the kids are able to make their own murals. And then what we're looking at is the possibility of it possibly getting hung up downtown, right? And you're asking, like, why downtown? Everybody's downtown. Well, those kids need to feel like they're all right to be in their area, right?
Yeah,
They're all right
that's right.
in that area,
Mm.
and they need to be recognized. And then when they're done getting hung at the community gallery, is what I'm hoping, we're trying for. There's no promises yet, but after that, and our kids on the south side get not seen on the north side, we send that back and we donate them to the teen center and let them hang them how they
Yeah.
want, because that's those kids' vision. All we're doing is facilitating them the space to be able to talk and to paint their culture, their community, and their needs and wants at the time through this lens right now.
Yeah. No. That's powerful stuff. I mean, that's kind of our philosophy too with the Gloom, right? Is just having resources accessible for everybody, and that it's the entire city effort, right? And just
Yep.
because you grew up on the south side doesn't mean that you can't be doing business downtown, right? And you can't be owning a business, right? Um,
Yep.
so another thing too, and I can kind of remind you and guide this on this conversation. Um, when we first came out with the Santa Fe Gloom name, obviously you loved it, right? Because you're born and raised here. There's some ties, right? Um, I think the gloom in a sports context is super cool because it seems like dark and it seems sad and gloomy, right? And the gloom will never be on the Santa Fe Gloom. The gloom's always going to be on the opponent that we play. But remind our audience and our listeners kind of what we had touched base on in terms of having Santa Fe Gloom players and going out to the schools and talking about mental health and talking about, their kids' gloom, right? So kind of touch on that, if you do remember that
Okay.
conversation.
So one of the things is, we always have this perspective of like good or bad, and we always want to be on the up and up, like this America, like produce, produce, produce. What have you guys done? We're gonna be happy. But there is that gloom, right? And how do you facilitate that and to actually have Santa Fe Gloom players go into the school
Yep.
and really have conversations with those youth, not only from an academic standpoint, but an emotional standpoint, right? Like, okay, when you are sad, how do you facilitate these? When you are
Yep.
happy, what are some of the
Yep.
outlets? What are the coping mechanisms that we're instilling? Not that we're
Yep.
therapists, we're not, by any means trying
Yeah.
to overstep boundaries with anybody. But if we can set the pace where people feel, where youth feel that there's a safe space and a mirror to look at, such as somebody from the gloom, right?
Hmm.
Then it gives them the opportunity to say, wow, they got that far. I think if I jump out, if I try just a little, I can do that, and really touching on those emotions and
Yep.
those spots. And if there is further stuff needed, we'll get to what that looks like too. But really giving them their own space to learn how to navigate those feelings. If we give them a textbook to understand how to do math, 1 plus 1 is always 2. Well, that doesn't mean you're always sad because of the same thing. It could be a different thing. So it's how do you navigate the emotional healthy
Yep.
wellness part two and the mental healthy wellness part two. If we take a shower physically every day, right? You also have to cleanse your spirit. You also have to
Yep.
cleanse the other part. Now, I'm not going in there saying that we should talk about religion. No, everybody's going to have their right, and state and religion have been separated forever. What I am saying is they should also have the space to stop, pause, breathe, talk to individuals who are community members, like the people from Gloom,
Yep.
and really get the chance to have their own voice.
Yeah. No, I think it's great, man. I mean, you came up with that and I was like, this is awesome. And then I kind of remembered back when I worked with the San Antonio Spurs, we had what was called the NBA Cares initiatives. The players would go into the hospitals, they'd go into the schools. And I mean, that's exactly what the Gloom wants to do, as just good community members. And keep in mind too, is our Gloom players, right? They have mental health issues as well, right? Obviously, just like we all do, right? I mean, before the games, I'm always telling the guys like, be mentally smart. Don't do stupid fouls, right? Just stay mentally fit. So it's going to definitely help the Gloom players as well.
Mhm.
Talking to the young kiddos because we all have mental health issues, so to speak. So I think it's just and then the kiddos will, kind of what you're saying. The kiddos are going to say, hey, I could be a Gloom player one day if I do these
Yep.
types of things because he's right here, right? They're right here at my doorstep at my school.
Yep.
So
They're right next to me. It makes it
it's real.
tangible. It makes it
That's
like
right.
it's
That's
not
right.
something I saw on TV far away. It
That's
makes
right.
it tangible, like that's my neighbor and I want to be like that.
That's right.
One thing that we don't touch on, and I know that we got to get off soon, but this is the one thing is all our superheroes wear masks. That's what we've been taught is to put the mask on, do your good with a mask. The Gloom players aren't wearing a mask. They're wearing a jersey.
That's right.
And it's
Yeah.
like they're using that to do their good. And
Hmm.
like you don't need that mask to be a good person. Let's take that off and let them see that their heroes are right here in the community and
That's
that
right.
have to be the mirror for them to understand what it looks like to be a positive brown man in the society that we live in, and to embrace your culture and to embrace the athletics in that part too, to embrace every single part, and that your heroes right here. It's
That's
inside
right.
you, and that we
That's
can
right.
help you get there without using the TV, without those stereotypical views. You can just look in the mirror and it is right there.
That's right. Yeah, no, it's a beautiful thing. Um, we'll end with this too, is we've been getting a lot of calls and text emails to see how we can have a women's Gloom team. So there you go. That's kind of the next step, right? So we've been working
Hey,
with
that's gonna be crazy. I love
that's going to be
this.
great. Yeah, no, it's going to be super cool. I know our next game, we're going to have Capital High School girls team. They're going to come out and support us, right? And then we want to do the same thing. We want to go out to those local high schools. So
And
all of those
I'm
things
going to
is,
your next game. So if anybody on this has a question, I'll be at the next one this
yeah,
coming up weekend.
we'll do a follow up for sure. This won't be the first time we have you on, man. We'll do some on location stuff too. And then, when the time is right, Youthworks will cater one of our games, do concession, things like that once we get to that level. So it's
You
all
got it,
coming
brother.
together. So cool. JP, thanks, man. Thanks for the time. I know you're super busy. So thanks for everything that you do in the community. 40 under 40 Business Leaders Awards. You earned that last September. So definitely come
Thank you,
out.
brother.
Yeah, no, you did it all yourself, man. I mean, these are the types of people that we want to recognize in our community, and you're doing exactly that. So you're walking the walk and talking the talk. So thanks, JP. Thanks for all of our sponsors: Mercedes, Economic Development, City of Santa Fe, Dos Santa Fe. Thanks, JP. We'll catch you again on another episode.
You got it. Have a good day, brother.
Cool. Thank you. You too, man. Bye.